for the webinar, but at the end we have a few list people because some people have not come up yet. But we can see that there is already an existing community of science shops, of course, which of course is coordinated by the Living Knowledge Network, and we have today here with us Henk. Hello, Henk. It's a pleasure for us to have you here on board. And thanks to this network, of course, we have had a lot of dissemination of this webinar. So we would like to thank especially this network, which is helping us a lot in the projects we are running, and we are collaborating with some members of the coordinator teams of this network. So thanks for that. As you all know, the InSPIRES project was funded at the same time as the C-Shop project, and the InSPIRES project aims to build effective cooperation between science and society by supporting the growth of science shops and enabling the expansion of responsible participatory research and innovation in Europe and also abroad. And we can see this a broad scope in the number of countries participating in this webinar today. We are very glad to have with us Helen Garrison, Marina, my colleague. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Rosina, and she is Marina. We both work at the Living Lab for Health, that is SICASA, and Marina will introduce you Helen Garrison. Thank you, Helen.
Thanks, Rosina. So, hello to everybody. Today we have Helen Garrison, Project and Communications Manager at the Swedish civil society organization VA, which is in Sweden. As Rosina mentioned before, she is participating in the C-Shops project and was responsible for developing the case studies of different models of science shops in order to inform the development of future science shops within the project. Helen has many years of experience working on a wide range of science communication and educational activities, even at national and European level, in Sweden and also in the UK. So today, Helen will present us an inspiring case study of existing science shops based on some interviews that they did during the projects. She will present us a wide variety of these structures. We think that it will be a very nice experience to know more about how these structures work and how you can improve what you are already doing within your science shops. So at this point, we also invite you to present you through the chat and also write down your name and your organization. After the presentation of Helen's, we will have time to ask for some questions. And that's it. So I give the floor to Helen.
Thank you very much. Well, thanks everyone for inviting me to talk about some of the work that SciShops has been undertaking. As was said, SciShops is actually a sister project to InSPIRES, a Horizon 2020 project, and we've been running since September 2017, and we finish in February next year. It's quite a large consortium of 18 partners in 12 countries, and our focus has really been on sort of looking at existing as well as developing new models of science shops, with the aim of setting up 10 new science shops at a range of different types of organisations, so institutions, so universities, research institutes, and also 2 companies. And to support the establishment of these new science shops, we've also been developing lots of different resources, and I'll talk a bit about those right at the end. But the case studies that I've been asked to talk to you about today has been part of the research to inform that work. So just for your information, here's the 10 new science shops that are being set up. Most are pretty set up and starting to run projects. You can see we've got some university ones there. Oxford, for example, has got a focus on artificial intelligence. We've got Italian in Brescia, they're looking at environmental issues. We've got Leiden, it's very much involved in citizen science. We've got research institutes like in Slovenia, Hungary, and Germany. And then we've also got our 2 business-based science shops, so KPMG in Cyprus, and also the SciShops project coordinator, Sinio, which is a small research and innovation company based in Austria, are setting up a science shop too. So today I've been asked to talk to you about some of the work we undertook towards the start of the project, and it was really about getting a good understanding of how different science shops operate, and I've been asked to highlight a few of these inspiring models today. We undertook 1-hour interviews with 15 science shop coordinators or coordinators of community-based participatory research initiatives, and it was really about getting a really good understanding of how these different initiatives operate. As you all know, there's no one model at all, so their science shops vary how they run, the types of projects they run, the type of organisation they're based within, how they're staffed, how they're funded. And we really wanted to find out how does this operate in reality. So it's beyond the glossy website and brochures, and really talking and finding out what are the challenges and the success factors for running these types of initiatives. And then we wrote up case studies, which you can find on our website. So when we were selecting our sample, we tried to choose a wide mix of models. So you can see different types of organisations, university, research institutes, and also those sort of non-profit organisations, both within Europe and also outside of Europe, so global ones. And then we also looked at different levels of maturity, so from very young science shops to well-established ones. And we also looked at other slightly different initiatives as well. For example, the Ibis Foundation has a very citizen science focus, for example. So we wanted to try and get a mix of different organisations. Also at the time, InSPIRES were actually undertaking interviews for a slightly different purpose, so we tried to avoid talking to the same coordinators as well. So today I'm going to select a few to go into in more detail, but first of all I just want to show you how we went on then to sort of categorise various models in our resources, which provides a little bit of a framework for what I'm going to be talking about. So this is, yes, an overview of types of organisations by type of overview of organisational options. So first of all, we have university-based science shops, so centralised ones. So in our case studies, this is the European University Cyprus science shop, which very much has a cross-university remit and mediates projects from all sort of fields of science and research at the university. Then we've got faculty-based science shops. Henks Science Shop is a good example of this. So at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands, they've got 6 science shops, each with a specific focus, run by staff from different faculties. And in our case studies, we spoke to the Language, Culture and Communication Science Shop. And then you can have a regional science shop. So we don't have a case study in that, but the Flemish network of science shops, which is coordinated by an InSPIRES partner, Vrije University in Brussels, is a good example of that. And so in this case, the coordinator acts as a central contact point for civil society organisations in Flanders. So they're collecting research questions and distributing them to other universities in that network as well. Then the next category is not-for-profit organisations. So we have science shops which are established within a non-profit organisation. And a good example is one of our SciShops partners, the Social Innovation Institute in Lithuania. And they run a small science shop within the activities of their institute. And it's they actually get interns from universities, and which is supported by researchers at the institute that undertake the projects and undertake project requests from civil society organisations. And then we have independent legal entities. So these are independent science shops that they can take various legal forms, from charities to foundations, non-profit organisations. And a good example of that is Bond Science Shop, which was founded in 1984 as an independent non-profit organisation. And as you know, is one of the biggest science shops in the world now. And then business-based science shops. So when we were doing our case studies, there weren't any existence, but these are science shops established within a company. So KPMG in Cyprus, one of our partners who's setting that up, is developing it as sort of part of their corporate social responsibility agenda, and very much developing to develop closer links with their local community. And they're working with loads of partnerships with different organisations and local universities, as well as being able to share their own internal expertise for projects as well. So they have a sort of broker role, but contribute expertise as well. All these forms can also, all of these different types of science shops can also take the form of pop-up versions or pilots. And as you may know, a lot of science shops start by piloting some kind of activity. So that leads onto the first case study that I wanted to highlight, which is a pop-up science shop. So this is Malmö pop-up science shop in Sweden. So when we talk about pop-up science shop, we're talking about non-permanent entities that may operate for a short period of time or be used to pilot activity. So some science shops may start in this way and then become move to become more permanent, or they may decide to operate in this way on a longer term basis, which is what Malmö's approach is taking. So Malmö University in 2017, they piloted a pop-up science shop as part of a regional social innovation project. And the idea was connecting civil society organisations with researchers to tackle societal challenges. It was piloted twice and involved a number of partners. And they chose a pop-up model partly because it was a funded project for a certain period of time, but also because they wanted to feel less connected to a physical institution or a physical space, and they wanted it to be sort of quite take a flexible approach. And the coordinators also talked about taking the science shop more into the community, different parts of the city, the countryside, to address challenges that are rarely addressed. And it was run in a very flexible way too. So there were 4 staff at Malmö University from different departments that were involved in driving the project forward. They didn't really have formal roles, but they functioned more as a sort of informal network of people facilitating the initiative. And they also worked very closely with a wider network too. So there's this social economy network in Skåne, for example, which is an independent lobby organisation for civil society organisations in the region. So their partners often acted as brokers to connect the science shop with relevant stakeholders. And the pop-up science shop, the objective is bringing organisations together with researchers at the university to identify and pursue research projects relating to challenges of wider societal relevance. Unlike many university-based science shops involving students, Malmö is not actually directly working with researchers. They're actually, they are working directly with researchers. So these are undertaking postgraduate studies, so not students. And there's a real focus in the pop-up science shop about strong focus on collaboration and co-creation, so with all stakeholders. And the way they ran the project was inviting lots of different communities, civil society organisations to bring their challenges to a meeting and to look at how they could be turned into research questions. And then following that first meeting, the coordinators went away and found out what kind of existing research was being undertaken at the university that related to those challenges, and then identify researchers that might be potentially interested in pursuing those types of collaborations. And then they had another series of meetings where they invited the researchers to provide context, inspiration, and they started to really talk about how they could turn these into concrete projects. So it was a real narrowing down process, and they started lots and lots of different challenges, they ended up with 4 sort of concrete projects that could be, and then funding could be sought for those. They've since, I know I'm meeting the coordinator in a few weeks, and I know they've been undertaking lots of different discussions and got new plans to take it to the next stage. So I don't have an update on that just at the moment, but watch this space. But a really interesting model. The second case study I wanted to highlight was going over to Germany and Potsdam Science Shop. So this was established in 2011, and it's an independent non-profit organisation. It's quite special because it's actually run by volunteers, so they've got no paid staff who sort of manage the science shop. It's based in a cultural centre where they have a physical space where citizens can come and collaborate on science-related projects. So it's a bit of a type of a sort of fab lab. They've got like a bio lab, so they can do biology-related experiments. They have a monthly repair cafe. I believe they've been working on a project to design and produce DIY aids for people with disabilities. And they run lots of different seminars, events, workshops as well. And they've got a focus on natural sciences, engineering, ecological research, lots of things. So what is interesting is that, so they don't get any direct public funding. They're given a free use of the premises at the cultural centre. They charge membership fees, they get some donations, and they also apply for project grants for particular projects as well. So when we talked to them, they were very they really like this idea of having freedom, so freedom to pursue the research topics and projects of their choice. And they see themselves very much as a capacity builder rather than a sort of service provider. So again, interesting model. Then let's move on to Spain. So this is the UOC Science Shop, which is based at the University de Oberta de Catalunya in Barcelona. It's a new, quite a new science shop, so it was set up in 2017. And what makes it quite interesting is that it's based at an open university. So of course it works in a sort of virtual with a lot of virtual collaboration. And they've been really focusing on trying to embed the science shop as part of the open knowledge strategy of the university. They've been financing 2 members of staff to really work on that strategy, and they partly work on the science shop as well. And they've last year they've just completed a full pilot of offering participatory final dissertation projects to students. So these are students are given the opportunity to develop dissertations on topics proposed by civil society organisations, and these are students working on their masters or undergraduate courses. So they've now they've successfully completed their first year pilot involving 20 students. I think it was a big success. The lecturers were very supportive, and they're really looking now about how they can really embed it and integrate it in lots of different courses across the university. And their focus is really on trying to embed in existing processes, not trying to create new complicated extra structures. So the virtual working aspect is also interesting. So apparently some students who happen to live close to the civil society organisations, they do sometimes have face-to-face contact, but very much being an open university, the focus is on virtual collaboration. So they obviously have a strong ICT environment to support that. But the Science Shop has also been developing guidelines and to point out and tools to support students. The students are quite used to working in a sort of virtual environment, but not so much conducting participatory research. And so they've been really trying to give them support on how to highlighting challenges of working this in a participatory way and how to overcome them. And we've put links from the case study on our website to those guidelines if you're interested in having a look at those. So again, a really sort of interesting model. My next case study 4, is we head over to the UK and to Liverpool and to Interchange. So this is a science shop that's actually an independent legal entity. So it's a charity, and it was set up in 1994. And it's based at one of its partners, the University of Liverpool. But it also works with other universities at different levels, at different times, but also with Liverpool Hope University and Liverpool John Moores University. And it works primarily with undergraduate students undertaking social science degrees. And the way it does that is so it acts sort of has a real broker role, and they offer community-based learning modules, which are undertaken during the 3rd year of studies, and give students an opportunity to conduct applied social research. as an alternative, and they can undertake these modules as an alternative to a dissertation. So each year they invite civil society organisations to submit proposals for projects, and then go through the sort of match them up with students. So the modules run from September to May. Last year they also successfully piloted a shorter 15-credit module, which ran from September to January. So each year they run about 25 projects. They actually, when they were set up in 1994, for a very long time, they survived on project grants, so a range of project grants each year. But in 2017, they actually secured permanent funding from the University of Liverpool for two posts, so a project coordinator and a project administrator. And as part of that funding agreement, they have offices and facilities at the university. They also have a management committee, so which acts as sort of a legal and advisory board, and they have academics on that committee is academics from the different universities and representatives from the community organisations, as well as student alumni. So again, a well-established science shop that looks interesting model. And then case study 5. So this is the research shop at the University of Guelph in Canada. So this is an interesting model because it actually involves paid student research assistants. So they've been running for 10 years. They celebrate their 10th anniversary this year. And the research shop is managed by the Community Engaged Scholarship Institute, which acts as sort of an intermediary organisation to foster community university partnerships. And they're very well now established. They have some great relationships with many different types of community organisations. So they have a mainly social sciences focus. The research shop receives core funding from the university and employs staff within the science shop. And it's very different to many traditional university science shops. So the research projects are undertaken by paid student research assistants. They used to call it call them interns and the intern program, but that's over the last couple of years this has changed mainly because of this nature of the employment. And it's graduate students who apply for these positions, and they're paid on an hourly basis, committing to a minimum of 2 semesters and 5 hours per week. And the research assistants are supported by project managers who act as sort of mentors and supervisors. I believe they're often previous student research assistants, and then they have an overall research shop coordinator as well. So the research assistants gain sort of good training in community engaged research methods, as well as lots of different other project management skills. They undertake around 10 projects a year, engaging about 18 student research assistants. They've also recently rejuvenated their community advisory board, advisory team, and this consists of senior representatives of NGOs, community groups, other community stakeholders, and it's really to provide sort of strategic guidance and mentorship, as well as sort of a level of accountability across the Institute's programmes. As I mentioned, they are celebrating their 10th anniversary. I believe over the past 10 years they've trained 166 graduate students. And part of these anniversary celebrations is also they're conducting an impact evaluation of the research shop. So looking at the long-term impact on students engaged through the programme, as well as on the community. So that I believe will be available in November. So keep an eye on their website for that, because I'm sure it'll be very interesting. So I haven't got time to go to cover any more, but so this was just a little taster. You can read more in depth about all the science shops that I've highlighted on our website under resources, where you can also find other different resources, like we've got an establishment guide for setting up science shops, scenarios collection, which looks at the sort of life cycle of science shops. We've got toolkits and also a business planning tool as well, a science shop model canvas. I also wanted to mention that We've got the final project symposium at the end of January in Italy, so we'll be showcasing all our new science shops, and also doing lots of skills development sessions for that, so that we'll be advertising that soon, and everyone's very, very, very welcome. And also we're planning to have put all profiles of all our new 10 science shops that are being set up as part of the SciShops project. They'll be up on our website too, so keep an eye on that, so sign up for our newsletter to find out more about those as well. So thank you.
Helen, thank you very much. It was a very, very interesting session. Somebody's clapping, so nice to hear that people liked it and enjoyed it. It was very interesting, and we could see a very wide variety of models, which can surely be inspiring for all of us, as they have, sorry, our camera was not on, so now it's okay. As they have different approaches that can inspire all of our models to get a wider variety of sort of doing. So we can see, for example, you're from Sweden with this informal network with postgraduate students, but also the Fab Lab format, which was capacity building in Germany, open university format, which is more than looking for where this can be embedded, the undergraduate social science courses, and the Canadian one with this community engaged and already being created, and it seems like quite settled for the long term that it has been on. So I guess now that it's time for all of us to get inspired by all these practices and to ask more questions to see how we can better take profit of your experience with all these case studies. So now it's time for all the attendees to bring questions on the chat or directly to the presenter with a microphone. Meanwhile, if there are no questions, maybe Marina?
Yeah, well, I have a question regarding the challenges that these structures had. So if you could briefly explain us what were the main challenges that they faced. It's good, interesting.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so we talked. Well, yeah, we specifically asked them about challenges. I mean, I think a common challenge, which is one probably the most common challenge amongst all different types of shops, is funding and sustainability. And it's very interesting seeing science shops' journey. I mean, and how a lot of them, you know, have grown over time and how they've achieved that, and you can go and read all this in huge details, and particularly those that are reliant on project funding, because as you know, a lot of project grants don't allow you to pay for things like, you know, utility bills and all that kind of stuff. So being totally reliant on project funding and having to constantly apply for funding all the time is a challenge. The other thing that came up quite a lot was managing requests from civil society organisations. So they often want things done immediately, and then it's trying to match them with the right students or researchers to do that, and managing expectations and around that, and also issues linked to sort of quality and things. So the science shops that had you know, to overcome that, a lot of them, some of them have really well developed processes, so and documentation to really sort of guide participants through the process, to make sure, and they make sure they have regular review meetings, that they you know, have lots of regular contact, so they can or they become
Yeah, it's the issue. Grow, how much you can cope, and how many you can train to make sure that then the research that comes up is responsible research and innovation.
Yeah, I mean, rapid growth as well, it can be often a problem for science shops. I know Potsdam was, you know, with their volunteer-led method. I mean, obviously that they've been growing, and that being based reliant on volunteers is obviously a real challenge as well, when you need you know, you're getting bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm. Great. Is there any other question from the audience?
Yeah.
Yes. Hello, Hank.
I'm curious to the models that KPMG and Signo used to do the science shop work. They were not part of your case study, but maybe you know something about that.
Yeah. So on new science shops. So KPMG at the moment they are they're going to have kind of. At the moment, they're developing a lot of new partnerships with and talking to universities and talking to developing their contacts with universities. And I think they're going to be very much providing. It's going to be a balance between using in-house expertise. Obviously, they've got lots of expertise in various fields, from digital technologies to emerging technology to, I don't know, helping funding proposals, things like that. So I think they'll be very much working in partnership with organisations and so partly on looking at developing. So co-creating and working with different stakeholders on projects, but contributing, so acting as a sort of broker role, but also contributing. I think so the business-based science shops are quite similar to non-profit organisation science shops in terms of they haven't got sort of the they can contribute in-house expertise, but a lot of the also will be very much on stakeholder engagement and participating in projects. Signo, for example, they have been, for example, participating in various co-creation events and contributing expertise into various different projects. But we'll be putting more profiles. I mean, they're all getting up and running at the moment. So. We've also got, I mean, if you, we've also got, Wuppertal, for example, in Germany, they're hoping to work more as a sort of virtual network of local organisations engaged in community-based participatory research. Their focus is going to be on sustainability and sort of very much co-creation, stakeholder engagement. And sort of developing this sort of ecosystem of local institutions. They're running, for example, climathons. I think that's happening happening soon. So they're very sort of intense events where they bring people together and over 2 days, bring stakeholders together and facilitate that process of coming up with identifying challenges and coming up with solutions in a tense period of time. So they've been working with that kind of activity. So the hacker kind of approach.
It's interesting to see how the different methodologies are merging: Fab Labs, hackers, community-based participatory research, many different methods coming into one direction. So perhaps in the past, science shops were quite different from citizen science, for example, but now they seem to be merging as well. So that's also interesting.
It is really, it's really true. It's like there's obviously that sort of very traditional science shop, more traditional university science shops, but the science shop, yes, community is sort of living knowledge community is expanding massively, and yes, there's lots of as you say, organisations engaged in more citizen engagement, a lot of stakeholder engagement, co-creation, and things like that. And that's one of the great things about the living knowledge community as well, that it's very inclusive rather than exclusive. As these kind of things change over time.
Have you noticed through the project that the diversity of stakeholders bringing the challenge to the science shop is getting wider? You know what I mean? So perhaps in the past we could see that the research question was coming from a CSO but are you seeing more and more case studies where the research question is co-created or co-defined among a wide diversity of stakeholders?
Well, yes, of course. I mean, we obviously we interviewed you, didn't we, Rosina? And so this kind of agenda setting approach is definitely a methodology that's being used by Science Shop. So bringing lots of different stakeholders with from different perspectives together to really kind of identify, you know, to really look at what are the challenges, what should be focused on, which direction do you want to go. So we're kind of yeah, I mean, you're a good example of working in that way, for example. You can read their case study on the website as well.
That's because you interviewed us. I'm sure there are many other examples. Thank you. We have a question here in the chat now from Guelph. She says that she's curious about the model that uses students' dissertations as the context for research. How was research design carried out? Maybe, Liz, maybe you want to switch on your microphone, or you prefer we to read the
Hi, I'm here.
Hello.
Hi, Liz. Is that the project? Hi.
Yeah, I'm Liz from Sesame Guelph. So we run the research lab, one of your case studies. Thanks for doing that. So my question is about the model that was at the virtual university where students' dissertations were the site for community university collaborative projects. We also have a program that supports community engaged research within course context, and we've just started to get requests for help with dissertations or kind of major projects. And the sticky point that we're coming up against is that everyone that works with us at SESI is a staff member, not a faculty member. So we're having a little bit of tension, I think, about the relationship between a staff person who's supporting, scoping, brokering the research, and then the faculty supervisor of the student. We just don't understand what an appropriate relationship is. So I'd love to hear how other people have negotiated that process.
Regarding that, I think we do have to find out more from Nadia. I don't know she's here in the call at all. They piloted the participatory final dissertation last year, so they've got, and they did. I know they have done a certain amount. They evaluated that about that. So we can certainly, try and find out afterwards, and I can put you in touch to so you can find out more about that.
Cool. Thank you very much.
But if there's anyone else on the call that's got any experience of that, yeah, please use this forum to share those experiences.
Actually, I think we have as a participant a person from the Open University. I think Ana Carrillo is in the audience. Perhaps she wants to give some answer.
That'd be great.
Ana, are you there? Oh, she doesn't seem to be there. No, not at the moment. No, sorry. Okay.
I think, Hank, did you have something to say?
Yeah, of course, we also work quite a lot with final dissertations. And in our case, the staff members, as you call them, the science shop coordinators, manage the process, and the lecturer or the professor manages the content. And you need to have prior agreement between the supervisor and the client organization and student of what will happen and what will be the criteria for assessment. And so the student has to abide by all the criteria that are normally applicable to this final dissertation. And that's what he or she is assessed upon. And unless you can actually modify these criteria, but that's a bit more work if you want if you want them to include like a more reflective component in it. For some internships, that's possible, I think. But mainly it's like a co-production, co-creation. So you have to go for the win-wins where everybody's happy with what's being done.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have another question from the University of Ottawa. Terry Campbell, if you want to share the question through microphone, please.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so my question is I'm very new to the science shop model concept. I'm just wondering, based on, and I found your case studies very informative, but based on that, are you able to draw any general advice for organizations as to what model, the most appropriate science shop model that they would use in their institution?
Well, one of the key messages that came out from our case studies was that when setting up a science shop, you really have to tailor it to kind of look at what resources you've got available and what is your expertise, and go from there. We've on the Science Shop's website, we've got under resources, there's our Science Shop establishment guide, and we go into huge amounts of detail about all the different ways of staffing and everything. I don't think it's not very you know, there's loads of different models, and obviously there's today I didn't focus on any sort of the very traditional university models which directly engage students. I mean, obviously some of them had those different elements, but I think it's really about looking a lot of science shops before they set up. They spend a lot of time. They go and visit different science shops, find out. Look around what kind of different models there are and what's worked, and find organisations that are quite similar to them. And that's how, what's great also about the Knowledge Network is that there is this great community out there that's very supportive of new science shops. So it's having a look at that information and really kind of thinking, oh, what might work for me? But, you know, tailoring it to your resources and yours. Yeah, your strategies and what you've got access to is really key.
Thanks.
Now we have a question from Institut Pasteur in Tunis. Hello, Hisham.
Hello, Rosina. How are you?
Fine. Nice to hear you.
So my question is about the institutional support, let's say. Are these case studies are supported by their own institution? I mean, not only funded but supported. You know, like they are encouraged to create their own science shop at the institution.
So I don't know whether I quite understood the question.
Are these science shops supported by their own institution?
Right. So the ones that I illustrated, I think obviously some of them are. I mean, the research shop, for example, in Guelph, is very much supported and core funding by the university. So then, of course, you know, the interchange, for example, I gave you is an independent entity in itself. So that, as I said, existed on project grants to start off and get up and running, and now it's received funding from one of its partners. The US, which other ones? I believe Groningen also. They, which we mentioned earlier, they receive core funding from the university as well. But then, as I gave the example of the Potsdam Science Shop, for example, so again, they're an independent non-profit organisation, so they basically rely on, so they're given free facilities at this cultural centre, but then they get other money through applying for project grants or membership fees. There's lots of different models. I mean, a lot of university ones it's not always the case, but they often get some money from their mother organisation, and then it tends to be, it's not, again, not non-profit organisations. There's a lot of, so it's either you get money, either you're supported by the mother organisations, or a lot of have to apply for sort of project funding, either to support the science shop as a whole or to run individual projects, so on a project by project basis.
Thanks.
So we have another question.
Sorry, I just wanted to add again some of the resources that we've got on our establishment guide. We actually look at funding in quite a lot of detail, and there's lots of and list all the different options, so you can have a good look through there and see a range of different funding options.
Excellent, Helen. So we have another question from ICE Global. Hello, Anne-Sophie. Would you like to share the question with us?
Hello, Marina. Thank you. Yes, and my question, I think, is linked to what Isham was asking on, let's say, financial aspect and sustainability, and it's in regards with the impact evaluation. So the fact that Science Shop have to, let's say, highlight and showcase the added value for all the stakeholders that are involved. And within InSPIRE, we are working on that at this point, and we would like to know what are your inputs if you have, let's say, investigate on this topic within the case study. Would be very great to hear from you on that.
Yes, so we did. So one of the questions we asked was, do you evaluate your activity? So there's two different, broadly, two different types of evaluation. So there's certain science shops that evaluate at the end of a project, for example. So they'll evaluate, they'll talk to the both, for example, the student and the civil society organisation, and that's more about evaluating sort of the process and things like that. And certain science shops do that. Generally, when it comes to longer term impact evaluation, it's something that lots of science shops would love to do, but they don't have the time and they don't have the resources, because these kind of projects, impact evaluation takes a lot of time and resource. A lot of impact information about impact is often anecdotal, so it's kind of things they just know because they've got ongoing relationships with that organization, for example. But it's really, yeah, it's a really interesting area. It would be very interesting to see Liz, who's on the call today, the evaluation that she's, I mean, maybe she could say a few words about how she's doing that impact evaluation, because obviously it covers a period. They've been running for 10 years now, but yeah, it's something which is increasingly important when you need like evidence to prove for funding, for example, and things like that. But and then it's a thing that lots of scientists want to do, but they just don't have the often have the time or resources to do. Liz, do you want to say a few words about your evaluation that you're doing, impact evaluation?
Sure. Yeah, so it's, as you noted, it's actually quite challenging because there was no research done upon the impacts of SESI or our research shop for a full decade. So we tried really hard to figure out a model where we could kind of link impacts to particular periods and models, and it was way more than we could handle. So it's not as rich as I would have liked it to be in terms of when we had an unpaid intern model and then moving to the paid hourly student model. We can't discern the difference that has made at this point. But are you having trouble hearing me? It looks like I'm too quiet.
No, it's fine. I can hear you. Yeah.
So what we did was actually it was two staff members' brilliant idea. There's this program at the University of Guelph called InSPIRES, which is a scholarship of teaching and learning program, and it runs for about 12 to 16 months. So they enrolled in it, and we chose as our research focus the impacts of our research shop for community and students. So the only actual costs were salary time for those two staff members and for me in designing and carrying out the data collection. We did it by survey. So we got from Alumni Affairs, we got a huge distribution list of former students, and we had our own internal records of community collaborators. So we just sent out a request to participate in the research. We had tiny incentives, and the findings are pretty incredible, actually. So we feel very affirmed by what we're learning, which is that for community partners, the impacts include, of course, impacts for their programming decisions, their ability to secure funding, their policies, but also a lot of them talked kind of surprisingly about how having students in their organization had enriched their function in other ways, just in terms of capacity, the kind of rewards that comes with mentoring students and so on. So that was one surprising and really encouraging finding. I shouldn't go on at length, but anyway, that will be coming out very shortly, and I'd be really happy to talk with anyone or to connect you with Karen Nelson, who's our research shop coordinator, who really took a very strong lead on that project.
That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it's really fun.
We're lucky to have you on board here to explain it in first person. Thank you. we seem to have a last question from the University of Lyon. Hello, Shai. Do you want to pose the question yourself? Shai? Hello? She doesn't seem to be hearing it. Okay, then we can read it ourselves because it's on the chat. She was asking, she is the person in charge of developing learning videos on science shops through the project InSPIRES. And she asks if you think it would be practical to highlight also in these videos aspects related to financial issues.
Sorry, so the videos, it would be useful to find out about what the video, her mic's dysfunctional. Okay. I mean, I think funding is always a big issue for science shops, and there are lots of different options. Obviously, it's one of the crucial things that can make or break a science shop. So it's quite an important thing to tackle. Again, it depends really on what the focus of those videos will be. But I'm happy to chat separately, email afterwards.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think it's been a very interesting webinar. We are coming now to the last minutes because we would like to end up on time. So, Marina, you want to wrap up?
Yeah, thank you very much to all of you. Helen, thanks a lot for your collaboration and this excellent presentation. And also thank you to the ICE Global team who support this webinar through this platform. And I think that it has been a very fruitful webinar. So I'm sure we will, we have had very valuable findings and insights. So yeah, so we have also prepared a brief evaluation form that we would like to share with you through the chat.
No, we will send it later on.
Yes, you will receive an email from us with this evaluation form. We will be happy to receive your feedback. Thank you very much to all of you.
And just to remind you that we are open to ideas for new webinars. So if anyone wants to participate or collaborate, this is an open community. And we would be very happy to receive your inputs on that aspect. Thanks a lot. And hope to see you soon. Maybe on January in your session of the ending of this very interesting project. Thanks a lot and see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye.